Okay, well, here we are again in our live stream overtime session. This is the Series 7 guru, also known as Dean Tinney, coming to you from my studio in an undisclosed location off grid. You know, when people have questions that a lot of people struggle with, I like to share that with you. The key to margin questions is to be able to do an initial setup and a mark to market. And so Rebecca's question was, Dean, can you review margins? Which, I know she thinks I was going to say it's late and I'm not going to do it. But then she rescued it by saying specifically SMA. And that's where I said, okay, let's do it. All right. So let's say we buy 1,000 shares at 40. And I say, Rebecca, do you want to do this in your cash account or do you want to do this in your margin account? Do you want to pay part of the purchase price and have my broker dealer lend you the balance? Or would you like to do this in your cash account where you pay in full? She says, Dean, I would like to do this in my margin account. I said, great. So you're going to have $40,000 in long market value. I think the best analogy is a house. I say, Rebecca, how did you capitalize the purchase of your house? How much equity did you put up? 50%, because that's what you got to put up in a stock. She goes, God, no, Dean, I put down 10. I say, okay, then you borrowed 90% of the purchase price. So here we're allowed to lend you up to $20,000 on $40,000 in collateral. That's called the debit register, the debit balance. That's what you owe the brokerage firm. And so you have equity here of $20,000. And that is called the classical margin equation. The classical margin equation long, very testable, is long market value minus debit equals equity. And we call that the initial setup. Now, there is not a lot of margin questions, but if you get good at the initial setup and then a mark to market, you're probably going to want to get more margin questions because there's no way to trick you. It's kind of like options once you get it. I don't know if the lights will ever go on, but if they do. Okay, so now let's say it goes to 50. It's $50 per share. And now what I'm going to do is a mark to market. And Rebecca, what they might ask you is, how does this affect the various ledger entries? And so now we have 50,000 in long market value. Again, I think the best analogy is a house, right? If the market value of your house goes up, your mortgage does not. You still have the same mortgage on the house, but what goes up is your equity in the house. And there are banks that are willing to advance you, Rebecca, on your house, a further loan. Do we have any bankers joining us this evening? What do we call that further loan in a house? If you come to me and say, Dean, as a bank, you have more than you need at risk in your house, and we'd be willing to loan you some more money, what is that called? It's called an excess equity line of credit. An excess equity line of credit. Banks say, hey, you have more than you need. So I love lending customers money. It's one of our all-time favorite things to do as broker dealers. So I always want to perhaps see if I can't lend you more money. So what I'm going to do, Rebecca, is compare what you have to Reg T. Reg T is 50%. And I say, Rebecca, you are at risk for 30,000 and you only need to be at risk for 30. You have excess equity, more than you need. Now, for test purposes, Rebecca, I don't think you would be in trouble at all to think of excess equity and SMA as one and the same. They're not actual.
Hey, Google, timer for 30 minutes. Got it, 30 minutes.
Please mute. I'll have to mute you myself. I don't know if I can find the mute. Long day. All right. So, Rebecca, I say for customers like you that are willing or have been smart enough to buy stocks that go up, I'm willing to advance you a further loan. I'd be willing right now to send you $5,000 in cash or let you buy $10,000 worth of securities. And you say, well, Dean, I like it at 40, but 50 is a little rich for me. Do I have to do anything today? I say, no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm, Rebecca, going to create a holding tank for your excess equity. And so I'm going to make a special memorandum to your account that on today you had $5,000 in excess equity, and 2 times that is what's called your buying power. So you do not have to do anything today if you don't want to. Now, as I mentioned, I don't think on the test, thinking of SMA and excess equity is the same would do you any harm, but it's really not. It's the holding game, because every day is a new day as a margin clerk. So, this is kind of like Friday, right? So what I mean by this is going to be yesterday's news, and this is yesterday's news. The only thing that is going to stay is this. I'm going to bring that forward, and that will be there tomorrow when I do the new mark. To get a new entry, Rebecca, you have to get past your high water mark. Your high water mark in this case would be 50. So SMA is the holding tank for your excess equity. Was that helpful? Is there anything else you want to know about that?
So I know some of the practice questions, they've given us like the long market value, the equity, and then the SMA or the debit register and the equity and then the SMA.
Yeah,
And so to figure
So remember, I told you it is testable to be able to tell me that this has changed, this has not changed, right? I mean, the effect is testable. What is the effect, right? And then, like I say, I have entire margin videos, class replays. You can don't overdose is what I call the margin lecture, because it's 3 or 4 questions. If you tell me you missed your mark on 7 because of margin, I'm going to say, I always say it this way, Rebecca. When people say, do I have to read the whole book? I always say, yes, you have to read the whole book cover to cover. I mean, really? I have to read the whole book? When I get weak, sometimes I get weak. I say, okay, you don't have to read the chapter on margin and partnerships. There are questions there, but your time is better spent elsewhere.
Gotcha.
All right, let's see. Is that it? Do we need to worry about Form ADV Part 2A? Yes, and 2B. Yeah, well, it's the brochure. It's the disclosure document, Daniel. So yes, the answer is you do need to worry about it. 2A is about the firm and 2B is about the people. And that is Tesla. Jen, you don't need to raise your hand. Are you raising your hand because you got another question, or is that from previously and I didn't catch it?
Oh, no. I actually just did have a quick question regarding the margin that you just did for Rebecca. So if we were to use the SMA,
Man, you guys, oh man, I thought, what a long ass day. Okay.
Okay.
So what do you want to
Sorry.
do? I'm going to do the mark. So do you want at 5,000 in cash, or do you want $10,000 worth of more securities? My favorite, Jane, would be you buy securities, because then I get the finance charge and I get a commission. So if you want to use your buying power, so again, the key is the initial setup, mark to market. So now, Jane, we're going to use the buying power. Did I turn off the tape? Maybe I didn't. I hope I didn't, because it's a lot of work. We may as well share it with the rest of the world. I'm going to use the buying power. Right. So the neat thing about buying power is you can buy more stock without coming up with more money. So now you're going to have $60,000. And the effect on the ledger entries is testable, right? Now on T+1, we didn't use any of Rebecca's money. She just bought $10,000 worth of additional securities, Jane, and she didn't come up with any money. So now she owes us $30,000. The 20 I originally lent her, and the 10 I'm lending her now, which is kind of cool, right? She gets to buy some more securities without coming up with any more what? Money, right? She had $30,000 in equity. She still has $30,000 in equity. It's just now her equity is carrying a larger loan, right? Very similar to your own situation, right? If you borrow money and you buy an asset, it doesn't change your net worth because you got an asset called cash from the loan, but you got a liability. It's just now your net worth is carrying a larger loan. I want to see if I can lend her some more money. It's my favorite thing to do. So I compare that to Reg T and I say, damn, Rebecca, I can't lend you what? Any more money. The way we say this, Jane, is if she uses it, she loses it. Right? If you use that SMA as cash, or you use that buying power, you're going to lose. All right. Anything else? Looks like I got everybody. I get everybody. Good. John Jolly. I love that. I apologize if I'm slamming that. Jen Jolly. Jen Jolly. I like that. Do you have a screenshot of that question? Because I can't.
I do not have it right now though. I selected it, I saved it, then.
Okay, well, just send me a screenshot of it. Dean at Dean at guruexamprep.com. Just send me the screenshot and I'll make a little video and I'll post it. All
Sure.
right. So just send that along to me and I'll send you the video as well.
I have booked